After that, I was struck in the leg, and it was so severe that I transported home. I believe that my height likely contributed to my receiving portions. For 20 years, James Arness was the ideal American hero on Gunsmoke. However, a man drowning in secrets was hidden beneath the badge. He attempted to terminate his life with the same kind of firearm that brought him notoriety. His daughter had recently passed away through suicide. 2 years later, his ex-wife would follow. Furthermore, it wasn't even his darkest point: a secret oil riches, a near-fatal wound sustained during World War II, and a conflict with his co-star that nearly brought the show to its demise. Today, we're discovering the truth about the American deceiver. James Arness was born on Minneapolis, Minnesota, May 26, 1923. Ralph Circler was his father, Ruth Dueller, his mother, was a journalist, and Arness was a businessman. Their family had German and Norwegian ancestry. The Orange residence was crowded with the seniors. Norwegian speech and the aroma of traditional cuisine frequently permeating the atmosphere. The great they were severely affected by depression. Ruth's income suffered because Ralph's firm deteriorated. From journalism served to sustain them. James was raised with a keen awareness of responsibility and resilience. He was shaped by his upbringing in these early encounters. Become the guy who would eventually play Marshal Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke for 20 years. Peter, James's granddad, in 1887, Arness emigrated to America from Norway. In order to conform, he altered the family name from Arness to Arness, like many immigrants do, in a better way. That minor alteration set off a reinvention trend that would reverberate inside the family. Peter, James' younger brother, would go even farther years later. He decided to go as Peter Graves when he first started in show business. Attempting to leave the shadow of his family and establish himself. Both success came to the brothers in rather different ways. James, as a boy, never wished to pursue a career in acting. He only performed in plays since he disliked being on stage. School plays, when he was encouraged to do so by teachers. His true desire was to visit ocean. Like the Norwegian, he pictured himself as a sailor seeking adventure. He admired the adventurers. When the Navy turned him down because he was too tall, James, who was 6'7", didn't fit into the small spaces of ships or submarines. Rather, he was recruited into the Army in March 1943 and transported to Fort Snelling. Previously, the subject of constant taunting due to his height, he was frequently questioned by classmates. "How's the weather up there?" Now turned into something James had a terrible battle experience, which the Army viewed as beneficial. On January 22, when Anzio landed in Italy in 1944, his height placed him in the forefront in order to wade into the water and determine the depth of the hazard. He was instructed to be the first man off the landing craft. The Army reasoned that if the water only came up to his waist, the shorter men would be secure behind him. 36,000 men landed that day, and the combat was ferocious. James' luck ran out 10 days later, while on a night patrol in a German machine. Gunfire ripped through his right leg in a vineyard. Jumped over a row of vines despite a nearby grenade, detonating and throwing before assistance could arrive. He laid on the ground for hours with his injuries. Broke his leg, causing him to hobble and suffer from chronic pain for the remainder of his life. James didn't discuss his injuries extensively. He received the Bronze Star for Valor, in addition to multiple other awards, such as the Purple Heart for his injuries. He received the Combat Infantryman Badge, the American Campaign Medal, and the World War II Victory Medal, but he also carried he endured the agony of those accolades in silence. The Army didn't even award him several of his decorations until 2000, when it was difficult to work, but he never showed it on screen. He turned into the tough Western hero persona, despite the fact that each step made him aware of the price of that persona. James Arness returned from World War II with his life in a precarious situation, while serving in the U.S. Army as a rifleman, and suffered severe injuries in Anzio, Italy. Took him to a hospital in Clinton, Iowa, where he suffered from excruciating pain for months. Therapy every day was an uphill battle. His younger brother, Peter Graves, visited him. Peter would go on to become well known on his own. But on that particular day, all he wanted was to assist his brother in discovering a new purpose. Advised him to try radio training at the University of Minnesota, which was something James had never thought of. At first, Peter thought James' deep voice would be ideal for radio work. James didn't give it much thought. His main objective was to get better and resume his regular life, but the thought lingered in his mind. He soon joined the prestigious radio program at the university. That tragic step would put him on the way to becoming a television personality legend. James obtained employment as a radio technician after completing his radio training. Minneapolis announcer. His steady, resonant voice was recognizable on the skies. However, fate struck once more. In 1946, a childhood buddy, James' friend, invited him to Hollywood, promising him a job as a film extra to supplement his income. He considered himself a radio man with aspirations of becoming an actor, but the prospect of a new experience was too alluring to pass up, so he packed a suitcase and headed for California. Curiosity. He earned $25 a day, working as an extra in Hollywood, where he fit in with despite the difficult labor and uncertain future. He began to stand in the background of crowd scenes, discover how the film industry operated. What started out as a means of making a living grew into entering the initial phase of a long-term film career. Desiring to enhance his skills, James attended the Beverly Hills-based Bliss Hayden Theater School. Harry Hayden, a well-known actor and teacher who later served as his mentor, despite James's diligence, he didn't consider himself to be a future celebrity. One evening, while taking part in a college production, something unexpectedly, talent agent Leon Lance, who was seated in the crowd, spotted James immediately. James's height of 6 feet 7 inches made him stand out, but his outstanding stage presence. Following the performance, Leon went over to James and offered to speak on his behalf. Everything changed at that meeting because of Leon. James began receiving tiny roles and auditions. One role paved the way for another, and soon he was on his way to playing Marshal Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke, the part that would define his career. James was a Swedish farmhand in his first major motion picture role in 1947. In The Farmer's Daughter with Loretta Young, he continued to use his given name, James Arness. At that time, a minor modification was proposed by director H.C. Potter, who instructed James to remove the U from it would be easier for people to recall his last name. Therefore, that movie became a smash, and James Aries became James Aries. Loretta Young even won an Oscar for Best Actress. James had a minor role, yet he was noticed. A minor alteration to his name became a component of his celebrity identity. You might be surprised to learn that James was naturally blonde, but back then, according to Hollywood, a man with black hair appears tougher and more heroic. Thus James, it was a little cost to have to dye his hair dark in order to land leading man parts. With that transformation, he completely assumed the persona of the quintessential American hero. When James Arness joined John Wayne's production in 1952, his life took a drastic turn. Business. The business was named Batjack, though many people spelled it that way. Among Hollywood's most well-known actors for westerns and action films, Aries appeared in 4 major. Wayne appeared in the following movies: Big Jim Land in 1952, Hondo and Island in The Standing 6 feet 7 inches tall. Aries made appearances in Sky in 1953 and The Sea Chase in 1955. Wayne observed that audiences adored him as a powerful, trustworthy figure. Wayne continued to select Arness for significant roles, since he was not just tall and tough, but also had the ability to behave subtly. Roles, among them was the 3D shot movie, Hondo, churned over $4 million. Back when a ticket only cost roughly $50 at the box office. These movies were enormous hits, mostly due to Warner Brothers, who ensured its nationwide distribution. This period of Aries joined the League of Movie Stars during his career, which paved the way for what followed next. Wayne was more than simply Arness's boss. He was also a friend and mentor. Wayne presented Aries to leading directors and executives. Because he thought Aries had something unique that Hollywood had overlooked, Wayne thought he was able to learn the business side of acting from producers. In Aries, to the extent that he created Gun the Man Down in 1956, merely to provide him with a starring part. However, their friendship came to an end when Wayne began working on. He expected Aries to join the cast of The Alamo, but Aries declined. By that time, Aries was well known on TV, and Wayne didn't want to jeopardize his position. Betrayed, he believed he had contributed to Aries' rise to fame, yet he was abandoned. After then, the friendship never entirely recovered. In 1954, CBS offered Aries the role in a brand new television program called Gunsmoke. Aries wasn't sure. In those days, actors saw he was doing well in movies and was afraid about switching to TV, which was a step down from movies. To TV would destroy his career. Aries claimed in a 1989 interview that it sounded amusing. TV was only a little box with a blurry image in 1954, but now was unsure if it would be worthwhile, and he didn't want people to believe that his film career was over before he had even reached his zenith. Wayne gave him the last shove, and Aries sought his counsel. Wayne informed him that he was still not sure if he should leave cinema for television. It was a wise move to cast Matt Dillon. Wayne thought TV was going to become enormous. Ernest valued what he had to say. Wayne had a keen sense of talent, and the Wayne's viewpoint tilted the scales. According to Ernest, who trusted Wayne, accepted the post without realizing how significant it would grow to be. Gunsmoke debuted on television on September 10, 1955. Although prior to the show began, spectators were somewhat aback by what they witnessed. John Wayne showed up on their televisions. Wayne presented Aries to the crowd while wearing cowboy attire. He informed them about Aries' impending stardom and commended Gunsmoke as an insincere and mature display. Aries immediately gained respect from this debut and distinguished him from all other television actors of the era. The actors didn't even James knew Wayne would pull it off. The move made Gunsmoke a hit. Arness' portrayal as Marshal Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke, which no other American actor has ever played, made him a legend. Television. The program ran from September 10, 1955, to March 20 years ago, on the 31st of 1975. Aries made an appearance in all. No other dramatic performer in primetime has done it in 635 episodes. The show started originally a half-hour series in black and white, which was later extended to an hour in color. Arness remained for 20 years, while other actors came and went. Gunsmoke outlasted 30 other westerns in the center of Dodge City. Aries' name became a representation of frontier justice. Television's heyday was the late 1950s. Gunsmoke dominated all westerns, and it was the top film from 1957 to 1961. Show in America, which drew over 18 million viewers annually during its 4 years at the top episode. At the time, that was significant. The show influenced culture by the way individuals attired in accordance with their speech patterns. In 1967, when CBS attempted to discontinue it, the public resisted, and even the families of CBS executives joined the protest, decided against it, canceling Gilligan's Island in its place. Arness became a household name. For the most of its existence, Gunsmoke maintained its position in the top 10. Fans returned because of the show's success and Arness's presence. Aries didn't only he got wealthy after becoming well-known, earning over $30 million by 1970 from Gunsmoke. That amounts to almost $230 million when adjusted for today. And that was prior to the final 5 years of the TV shows and films. He once received $20,000 per episode, or roughly $150,000 in today's currency. His income from Gunsmoke exceeded John Wayne's wages per episode. Throughout his whole cinematic career, Aries showed commercial acumen and received a portion of the profits. According to TV Guide, Gunsmoke is the most consistently profitable company ever. To film in addition to his starring career, Aries produced 32 episodes himself, uncommon for a star at the time. In his capacity as producer, he assisted in determining the budget and the artistic direction. He possessed influence behind the scenes that allowed him to see BS and enabled him to obtain his portion of the earnings. His astute actions maintained despite shifting trends and tastes. Gunsmoke remained relevant until its demise in 1975. Arness continued to work with Matt Dillon, returning for 5 TV appearances between 1987 and 1994. 1987 saw the release of Gunsmoke, Return to Dodge, followed by The Last Apache, from 1990 until One Man's Justice, The Long Ride, and The Last Man in 1992 and 1993, respectively. In 1994, Aries portrayed Matt Dillon for 50 years, and the films delighted seasoned viewers. Few actors have remained committed to one part for so long or performed it so well. Milburn Stone brought new roles. During the first 3 years of Gunsmoke, Stone couldn't tolerate James Arness, who portrayed Doc Adams, had years of experience and was a serious actor. He was punctual, stayed focused, and knew his lines. However, Arness drove him crazy. When Ernest was late, he would whistle or make goofy noises while rehearsals. Stone was so irritated that he once remarked, "I felt Stone detested working with him since he was completely out of place in the company." Everyone on the set was aware of the tension, and their animosity toward one another was no secret. It persisted until during a heated moment on stage, things exploded that day. Ernest was laid once more before Stone eventually lost it in front of the actors and crew. Shouted, "I've read my contract, and nothing requires me to wait for you or change your diapers. And you'll have 2 reasons to explain if you ever arrive late. Again, friend, in addition to where you were, where I went." The statement struck a deep chord, referring to Ernest as a man in need of diapers. Demonstrated to the guys how little regard Stone still had for him. Aries' teeth began clicking, a nervous habit of his, as he froze. Nobody ever forgot it, but what happened next stunned them all even more. Ernest didn't retaliate, didn't become enraged, and turned to face Stone, saying, "Milburn, you're entirely correct." Stone's single statement altered everything. Couldn't believe it. Aries' integrity and modesty put a stop to the conflict rather than making it worse. Stone said that the incident caused Aries much embarrassment, and the two grew close. However, he added that it gained him respect, and they proceeded to collaborate as true partners. Stone even commended Aries' acting, referring to it as classical. That disagreement had deteriorated the working relationship. Not everyone, however, had a change of heart regarding Aries. Clint Walker, who served as the star of 4 decades, Cheyenne maintained his distaste.